Toss to White. He's in! Patriots win the Super Bowl!
Welcome to Patriots Touchback Podcast.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Patriots Touchback Podcast. It's Season 3, Episode 60. And we are here to review, as the dust has settled with free agency. New England have made some moves, both with ins and outs. But we've got Nick, we've got Rob, and we have got Kieran on standby for us tonight. Welcome everyone on this very, very energetic Saturday night show. So we've got a lot to talk about regarding a free agency and who is going to be, who are we looking forward to, who are we not looking forward to, and who are we going to miss over the course of this season. Make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you gong spike the subscribe button. You tell all your friends. You follow us on social media platforms. Make sure you follow the podcast on Spotify and Apple as well. We are now at 87 subs. We are 13, unlucky for some. We're 13 subs off 100. And the goal is to get to the 100 sub mark by the draft. So if anyone who's watching or listening, please make sure you smash the like button, hit that subscribe button. And also, as well, just to let you know, there is a little bit of an event happening on the 23rd of April at the Hippodrome in Leicester Square in London, an NFL draft party, which is being hosted by the great people of the Across the Pond Sports Network. And of course, they've got a very, very special guest in the name of
Sean Gale.
Sean Gale, Super Bowl winner from Super Bowl 20 for the Chicago Bears. So go make sure their links, go to their Instagram and go find their links, and you'll see and get your tickets. Gentlemen, good evening on this wonderful Saturday night. How are we doing?
All good?
Yeah, good to be here.
A long, tiring week, so kind of the perfect way to unwind heading into it.
Well, you was trying to do booking events for Cheltenham, so I'm not surprised. I've seen a lot of videos around over the course of the week of people getting into scuffles, getting into fights, and so on. I thought that's not what Cheltenham's about. Oh no, I forgot. It's full of drunk fucking English people, of course.
Yes, look, I've been to the Cheltenham Festival once, and I would never go back because it's overcrowded, full of dickheads. You can't get a bet on, you can't get a drink, you can't go to the toilet, you can't get anything to eat because it's just far too busy. And it took us 2 hours to get out of the car park, and I was just like, fuck this. I don't want anything to do with this again. So I'm quite happy to sit and watch it from the comfort of my own home. And it's a lot cheaper, even though I couldn't sniff a winner the entire week. So there you go. So it goes sometimes.
You should have took some advice from me, mate, because I think it was like 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, I actually went to Cheltenham Festival for the very first time. And I have about £100 with me. I thought, that doesn't sound like a lot. It does sound like a lot when you come back with 470 quid. I'll tell you a little story, okay? My stepfather, God rest his soul, in his younger days, he used to be a jockey for the trainer Toby Bolden. So, and he knows that family very, very well. Yes, if you know someone called Sue Baldwin, you know what you're on about. You know what you're doing.
Welcome everyone to Patriots Horse Racing Touchback.
Just a little
enough of that. Yeah. I think there are the way things have gone this week. I think there are a lot of empty wallets around this country, as to say that, because wasn't a great festival for the punters. Let's just say.
I bet everyone threw like thousands of pounds on Harry Redknapp's horse, and what did he come in 8th? I think it was. So it wasn't, which wasn't at all surprising. Anyway, let's not talk about horse racing. This is not what you're here to listen and watch. You're here to hear about the New England Patriots and what they've done in free agency. Let me start off by saying this. I know there's a few people on social media that say it's a little bit of an underwhelming free agency of who we brought in and so on. But I've gone through this list, and it screams to me, the people that we signed is every little piece is a little bit better. And I'll give you a prime example. Jalen Hawkins is gone. We're getting Byard, the safety from the Bears, who had Kevin Byard, a great safety. Romeo Dubs, is he the replacement for Stephon Diggs? Well, Diggs was predominantly playing as a wide receiver 2 anyway, even though he was wide receiver 1, but he was playing as a wide receiver 2. So that's not a downgrade as such. And I've got some statistics as well to show us, which we'll go through. You know, Draymond Jones, a good piece to have as a pass rusher. Elijah Vera Tucker, a very good guard to have. I would say in place of Wilson because he's moved to center now, so we just put in the position there where it's actually easiest. It was actually easy for him to do now. Reggie Gilliam at fullback. Not only is that an upgrade, but that's an addition which no one spotted. And some special teams players like Mike Brown, defensive back. He came from Tennessee, ironically. So yeah, there's been some shrewd signings. It hasn't been like blowing us all away, but there's signings which were needed and they were calculated. Nick, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, you stole a little bit of my thunder there. You know, like you said, Romeo Dobbs, he's taller than Diggs, he's younger than Diggs, he's faster than Diggs. You know, his strength testing probably would come off better than Diggs, and you know he's going to cost us less in the long run. So ultimately, if you look at the way the Patriots have gone about their free agency signings, they've gone with a purpose, and I don't think it's been about splashing the cash and just getting the big names. It's been about little tweaks, and we've got our core. The core that went to the Super Bowl, that is our core. There are going to be names that are going to go out. So let's bring in names that don't necessarily bang the drum, but the player himself is the one that makes that slight tweak. Like even like someone like Reggie Gilliam, he's going to perform better at fullback than Jack Westover, who was a tight end. So I'm not saying Jack Westover didn't do a good job. He did the job to the best of his ability, but you know, Reggie is going to give us a bit more purpose, a bit more structure, and is going to be better in that position. So I just think it's not been about big signings. It's been about tweaks, and that's how you want to run free agency. Ultimately, the draft is where you get your future. It's just about tweaking it so that you're in the right position to draft what you need.
Yeah, Kez?
Yeah, I think there's clearly been a strategy of the kind of players they want to target. So if you look at Reggie Gilliam coming in, significant upgrade to the fullback position and allows Josh McDaniels to run the offense as he wants him to. You know, no disrespect to Jack Westover, you know, but you're going from a guy who was playing arguably out of position as an undersized fullback to one of the best fullbacks in the NFL. That is a significant upgrade. And then you add Julian Hill into that, who's come across from Miami, who's primarily a blocking tight end and a very good one. I saw a great clip from last season where he made a double block on an A-Chan touchdown run where he got out to meet the guy he was intending to block, absolutely drilled him out of the way, got to the second level, smashed another guy, and blew open a massive hole for A-Chan to score on. So they've clearly brought in them two players to help the running game, and Elliot Wolf referenced that the running game wasn't where they wanted it to be at times last year. So that's a very considered approach that you've got, you know, two guys that have come in specifically to aid the running game and to create more running lanes for the likes of Henderson and Stevenson. I think the hope will be that Henderson becomes the lead back next year. You've got a second round investment in him. I think in an ideal world, you want him to be getting the majority of the carries between the two. And that's not a disrespect to Ramondre Stevenson, who's still a good player, but Henderson's way more talented and way more explosive. He should be getting the majority of touches. So you've got that. They've thought about what's going to happen with the offensive line reshuffle with Wilson kicking inside after the Bradbury trade. You've gone and got your left guard. It's quite clear that they view Dobbs as a Diggs replacement and not someone who would have come in as the primary wide receiver one. Draymond Jones gives us an option in the pass rush now, where, as I said in the last show, Vrabel traditionally likes one big edge and one smaller fast edge. So you've got your big edge now. So that may look like come draft time we might try and target a speed guy on the other side. And then you lose Jalen Hawkins and you get a true center fielder in Kevin Byard. And I don't know about you guys, but I watched the interview of Kevin Byard. I loved what that guy said. Like this guy is just made to play for us. And like he's coming off a season where he played in a good Chicago team, got 7 interceptions, led the NFL. He's still, at 32, 33, one of the best true single high safeties in the NFL, who's a ball hawk. Isn't afraid to come down and attack the box. Someone who's going to be a great leader. I just love the way he spoke about taking a leadership role and how he's basically said, I'm going to help Craig Woodson become a better player and someone who's going to really buy into the culture. And I feel like Kevin Byard was, for me, I think he's the best signing of the lot. I think that is, and that's no disrespect to Hawkins, who had a great season last year. You're getting a stud safety here. Albeit a bit long in the tooth age-wise, but still one of the best free safeties in the NFL still. And that really helps the secondary when you look at it now with Woodson ascending, with what we've got at corner. Like, this is a really, really good secondary.
I understand. I understand where you're coming from regarding Kevin Byard. I think he was a quality signing. I didn't expect him to come to us, but the fact that the fact as well, Craig Woodson, we saw this to the back end of the season where he was slowly getting more better and better, improving. And if anything, he was probably one of our best defenders in the postseason. Nearly every single play, it was always him. Now you've got a seasoned veteran in Kevin Byard on the other side of him to actually help him. Just look at that secondary now. That front 4 secondary consists of Christian Gonzalez, Craig Woodson, Kevin Byard, and Carlton Davis. Not to mention as well, you got Marcus Jones in the slot as well. Marcus Jones at nickel. So that's probably one of the best secondaries in the NFL pre-draft as it currently stands right now. But no, I like the idea. Rob, what's your thoughts on it? Is Kevin Byard our best signing, or would you say it's Dubs or Gilliam? Who do you think?
I too love the Kevin Byard signing. In particular, he's someone that I've always liked as a player. He's a 3-time All-Pro, which I didn't realize he'd actually got that accolade 3 times. Obviously, he's been consistently one of the best performing safeties in the NFL, but to be a 3-time All-Pro is pretty special. As mentioned, obviously led the league in interceptions last year. I just think he's a brilliant all-round safety, and he provides that leadership that we look for in players. Gonzalez and Jones and Woodson are all really good young players, and so I think adding somebody with more experience in the back end, he's going to be really valuable. I think it reduces the risks of things like blown coverages and mistakes that we've seen at times. Which has been one of the only shortfalls of that secondary is when things have gone kind of clearly wrong. So I really like the signing for that purpose. In terms of like the overall additions that the Patriots have made, although there's nothing that really blows you away in terms of a major name, I think that we've improved in areas where we've been able to improve. Obviously, we all wanted that number 1 wide receiver, whether it was Alec Pierce, but once he was off the table, there wasn't really a whole lot of options there in terms of being able to elevate the offense in terms of the passing game. So whether it was the strategy from the very beginning or a pivot once that happened, I think there's been a clear emphasis on improving the run game. We really struggled in areas at times last year, although there was plenty of explosive plays from Henderson across the course of the season. We actually really struggled in running the ball in short yardage situations. Inside the 20, I was having a look earlier last year during the regular season. Stevenson averaged 1.9 yards a carry in the red zone, and Henderson only averaged 2.4. And we struggled on third down and short as well. You know, we were pretty much as good at converting third and longs as what we were running the ball in short yardage situations. So I think you look at that, and the three players that you bring in on offense that are going to contribute. I mean, yeah, we know there's a little bit of a risk with Vera Tucker in terms of his health, but when he's healthy, he's a very, very good guard. The last healthy season that he had in 2024, he was 11th in his run blocking grade. And then, as Kieran mentioned, you bring in Julian Hill from the Dolphins. You know, when we thought, you know, we looked at Charlie Kohler as a blocking tight end potentially, he went. But I really like Hill from the limited bits that I've seen of him. I don't think he's going to provide much down the field in terms of the passing game, but as it's been mentioned, he's big, he's strong, he's tough, he's physical. You add him onto the end of the line, either next to Will Campbell or Morgan Moses, and I think you've got a really strong ability to run the ball outside as well. And then, as mentioned with Reggie Gilliam, you know, you bring in the fullback of last year's leading rusher in the NFL. You put that in front of Stevenson or Henderson, and I think it really changes the dynamic in terms of being able to run the ball in short yardage situations. So when that option of the big flashy wide receiver was off the board, you know, if you want to look at improving the offense, then the run game was the way to do it. And I think we've added three players that can come in and do a really good job for us. I think there's potentially still a move to be made. The Romeo Dobbs signing, I think, essentially puts us in the same position, wide receiver wise, as what we were prior to free agency. You know, before Diggs went, we all kind of looked at it and thought we could do to add somebody. Once Diggs went, you needed to really add two people. Dobbs comes in for a similar value as what Stephon Diggs was going to be playing under. I think probably provides a little bit more production than what you were likely to get out of Diggs this season coming up. Maybe not what Diggs got last year, but you know, as Diggs was going to be 33, Dobbs is only 25. So I think he adds a lot of production there. And so I like the moves that we've made. So I'm pretty impressed so far.
No, I think go on, Nick.
I was just going to say that's actually a really good point that Rob makes, because you know that yes, we probably do still need a number one wide receiver, and if Philadelphia are saying they're not going to trade AJ Brown till after the 1st of June, which I get it, because that's their prerogative and financially that's what they need to do. If they're in talk with the Rams and they're in talk with us and they're in talk with whoever else, June the 1st, as you know, everyone knows how the calendar works. June the 1st comes after April the 23rd. So we will know at the draft if they choose to go with that like number one wide receiver at the end of the first round. AJ Brown's not coming to Foxborough. So we'll have to wait for the next sort of 5 weeks or so and wait to see what happens. But if we go, you know, you can fairly guess that if we get into that draft and we take a wide receiver high, first round, second round maybe, then I think AJ's certainly not coming our way. But you know, I would have. I don't know whether I really want AJ or not. I can see anybody would want him for the good things, and you can see what he can bring, and on his day, anybody would want that. But you look at this season, and it's like, is this season just gone really about their offense? Is it really about the argument that, you know, he's had with his quarterback? Or is it just that he's Father Time's caught up with him? But I mean, he's not that old, so I can't see Father Time catching him. Not yet. But he's a real enigma, and I'm not sure about him. But we'll see. But no, I got distracted there. Rob makes that good point. So we'll just have to see what happens. But, you know, we certainly improved, I think.
I think there are three possible outcomes with wide receiver. There's three different ways you can look at where the future go for the Patriots. So option number one is AJ Brown. And that's obviously there's clear links at the moment. And we're still waiting to see what's going to happen with a potential trade there. Option 2 is you draft someone who's more of a slot guy in the draft. So someone more like an Omar Cooper Jr., as I said before, maybe a KC Conception, someone if he gets to you at 31. And that leaves Dubs to play on the outside with Booty primarily. Or you draft more of an X type, someone like Chris Brazel, or if Denzel Boston falls, you grab him at the back end of the first round. And then that means you have to work out what you're going to do next. Does Dobbs play inside in the Diggs role, or does Booty play inside more? And I thought that was really interesting that Elliot Wolf mentioned that in his interview the other day, where he said that Dubs and Booty haven't been playing inside as much in recent times, but definitely can do it. They've just been strictly playing like X or Z roles on the outside. So there's clearly a thought process there that there might be some moving about with the formation next year of where receivers line up. So we'll know more about how our starting 3 receivers are going to look, who's going to play where come the draft. I think if as I said, if we draft a slot type, I think Dubs is staying on the outside. But if we draft a Brazel or someone like that, then I think you're probably looking at Dubs being the primary slot receiver next season.
Yeah. Big up to Ravens across the pond. Don't you think that AJ Brown is a huge risk potential to come in a disrupt a young and cohesive organization? We've had that sort of dilemma for a number of months, especially regarding of AJ. So AJ Brown's play, we know he's a fantastic receiver. On his day, he's probably one of the best receivers in the game by a mile. The problem is, though, is that when they start having deficiencies in their attitude and their behavior, that's when all of a sudden it starts to sour a little bit for us. Now, was he really pandering all throughout of last season? Most of the time he was. People you would say a change of scenery for someone can do the human brain a lot of favors. But it's like we're going to get AJ Brown when he's like 25 or 26. We're getting him when he's 29, turning 30 this year. You're banking on him having 2, maybe 3 more years of elite production before he crystallizes into glass. So it is a bit of a catch-22 situation for us, whether or not we go for AJ Brown or not.
I think with AJ Brown, there is definitely an element of risk, right? Because of the personality and the kind of alpha dog, mentality that he has, and everything that's kind of transpired with the Eagles. The hope would be, and I think this is what the Patriots will be hoping for more than anything, is that not just the change of scenery, but getting him to a place that he quite clearly has an affection for, having grown up a Patriots fan. He's, made no secret that he's a Patriots fan, and he's been, unwrapping jerseys from Brady and Edelman, and said that he was very upset when the Patriots passed on him in the 2019 draft, and going back to play for a coach that he absolutely loves. The hope is that when you now put him in the new situation in New England, is that he just knuckles down and gets on with it. He's got what he wants. He's playing for the team he wants to play for. He's playing for the coach he wants to play for, that he's got a great relationship with and knows can keep him in check. The hope is he just gets on with it and you don't hear anything out of him untoward. Obviously, there's no guarantee of that, but I think that's what they're banking on, is that if you get him out of Philly and get him to where he wants to be, he'll just shut up, knuckle down, and get on with it.
And Philadelphia probably also would prefer to trade him out of the conference rather than, because if we find out that the Rams give up more first round picks for AJ Brown, their 3 receiving duo consists of Puka Nacua, Davante Adams, and AJ Brown. I'm sorry, but that's a Madden lineup. That is a Madden lineup.
Need him.
I don't know what kind of cap. I don't know what cap situation you will have if you do get AJ Brown on your books. But Jesus Christ, that's a horrible receiving duo to go up against. Thank the Lord we don't play the NFC West this year. Anyway,
yeah, I'm not sure why they need him, to be honest. But that's just the Rams. They've sacrificed draft capital to win now in previous years. So it would be very much a case of they think that AJ Brown can come in, add to what they've got, and they're going to go to the Super Bowl and win it again. They're very much a short-term thinking team, but I don't know why they would necessarily need him because they're looking pretty good for a deep run next year anyway.
Moving to go on, Rob.
Yeah, I was just going to quickly kind of come in on the AJ thing. So I personally kind of find myself in two minds about things because it's been a long time since we had a true number one wide receiver in New England, and I think we all can immediately see what that could add to the offense. If you have somebody on the outside like AJ Brown, the kind of receiver that defenses have to game plan around, then obviously that automatically opens things up for everyone else, and that feels like the kind of move that would take the offense to the next level. We've seen other young quarterbacks who have been given, with that top level receiver really kind of take a jump. You think of Stephon going to Josh in Buffalo, Tyreek in Kansas City. With AJ, as it's been mentioned, about his age and his attitude, it's a difficult one. Does him being under Mike Vrabel kind of bring all of that to an end? From my memory, I don't seem to think that he was causing too many issues in Tennessee before he went to Philadelphia. Whether that's more related to him getting a massive contract and a load of money, or whether that's being under less of a sort of adept man manager in Nick Sirianni compared to Mike Vrabel, I'll probably lean towards that being the case. And you would hope that being back under Mike, as it's been mentioned, that can kind of all go away and he plays ball. But the other side to it is that you're now paying Dobbs $17.5 million a year. Do you really want to add another contract of $30+ million to the wide receiver room? I don't know. We've seen other teams, when they pay massive bucks out to wide receivers, the team that comes to mind immediately is Cincinnati, is that it can really hamstring you in terms of building other areas of the roster. And, personally, the New England Patriots teams that I watched win the Super Bowls never had that number one guy and didn't really need one. They had really reliable receivers who are making catches on third downs, not necessarily, going for 80 yards and a touchdown. The receiver room at the moment, like I say, I like Booty. And that's the other thing as well. If you want to keep Booty around, then, if you bring AJ in, then that probably isn't going to be a possibility. But, we've mentioned about Booty and Dobbs as two guys that are going to be there. The two names that we've not mentioned are Hollins and Douglas. They both had more than, I think Douglas had 447 yards last year, but both caught a significant amount of footballs and had a decent amount of yards. So, is there a possibility that you do go into the season with the room as it is? Maybe add somebody in the draft. You look for Kyle Williams to step up. We saw, flashes out of Efton Chisholm last year, and like I say, if the offense is more focused on running the ball this year, is there a possibility that you just trust the elevation of Drake May and some of the young receivers that we've got to be enough to get by?
I think Pop Douglas is probably on the outside looking in. It's something we've talked about quite a bit on this podcast over the last few weeks. If you look at the room as it is now, you want Kyle Williams to step up, and there's a hope and a belief that he can, because he was a prospect that we all liked coming into the draft last year, and he showed flashes, but in a very, very limited sample size. Hollins is obviously your experienced, do-it-all player that's great in the locker room, and he's going to have his role. I think Douglas is the one that's redundant though, because being a 5'8" slot guy who's kind of has a very specific skill set, I just don't know where that fits in if you get another receiver. And I think with 1 year left on his contract, he's kind of like a prime trade for a late pick swap candidate or a camp cut. I think you make a good point, Rob, about Booty in terms of, if you sign AJ Brown, I don't know how you're extending Kayshon Booty next season. And, we've been advocates of getting that done because he's still only 23 years old. He's an ascending player who's developed into a really important role player for us. And, you're looking at him hitting free agency in a year's time if you have AJ Brown and Romeo and Dobbs already on sizable contracts. So yeah, I think if AJ Brown does sign, it probably means that you've only got Booty for one more year. But if not, if it's a draft prospect, then I think you can definitely re-sign him. And then you're going into the next 3-4 years, potentially with your starting 3 receivers absolutely tied down to longer term deals. But it isn't just the receiver room in terms of pass catchers that we need to focus on. There's a real need for a second pass catching tight end now. And now that we have Julian Hill, we don't have to focus too much on having a blocking tight end in the draft. You know, we've mentioned on this show that, you know, you look at the class coming up in this draft and there's maybe only 1 or 2 guys that can actually block. Now the world's your oyster, because you've got a whole array of pass catching tight ends available to you, that you've now got a ton of flexibility with a guy that you want on day 2 or 3. So, you know, if we can come out of the draft with a pass catching guy who can rotate in and develop without having too much pressure on him, you've got Hill to block, you've got Henry as your tight end 1. I think it's really important trying to find a young guy who you can develop and bring through. Yeah, there are a few guys of that ilk, so that's really important. Finding another tight end as well as your next move at receiver, and I think once we do that, we're in pretty good shape.
We do have a couple of comments here. Delusional Patriots Sam also AJ went on Edelman and Gronk's podcast when he said what he said. And big up to Grandizer 12, or as I like to call him, Ned Flanders. Highly ho, lads, highly ho. Hope you're having a good day. You all like the AVG signing. Bloody good. Yes. Are you all out of the UK? Yes, we're all out of the UK. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, listen, I don't mind the AVG. I don't mind Elijah Vera Tucker. He was one of the guards that you was banging on the table for, Kieran. I personally wanted
Marlowe ahead of him, but like, yes, I think
the
in terms of long time upside, then yeah, Vera Tucker's awesome. Go on, Carl.
Is that it? Sorry, I just got distracted by that comment.
He got distracted then.
I got distracted by that.
I can continue. Yeah, like I was more of a fan of bringing in more of an experienced head to help Will Campbell and sit in between Campbell and Wilson, and that's why I was banging the drum for Isaac Soimalo. But yeah, I did mention Vera Tucker because of the age, because of the first round pedigree, because of the ability he's shown when he has been healthy. It's definitely worth taking a swing at. It wasn't something I necessarily expected us to do, but I really liked it. And I know that if you can keep him healthy and he can avoid these freak injuries, because let's be honest, tricep injuries and a snapped Achilles are not things that happen to players every single day. If you can, if he's available, he's going to be fantastic, because he's still only 26, and whenever he's played, he's looked really good. And with him, he provides the more long-term upside, because if you're signing a Soimalo or a Joel Bitonio, you're probably only getting a year or 2 out of them. Whereas, Vera Tucker signed a 3-year deal, and if he stays healthy throughout that 3-year period, at 29 years old, you potentially then can sign into another contract. So I really liked it. I really liked him coming out of the draft in 2021. Apparently Bill Belichick did as well. I like that. I just really, really hope he can stay healthy. And you look at the way they've layered the contract with the active game day bonus as well. It's very smart that the team have done that. A lot of his incentives are based on availability, which is understandable. But yeah, as long as he's on the field, I think he's a great signing.
No, I think it'll be solid, but we're banking on him staying healthy. But the chance of him tearing his triceps again are extremely low, because once you tore them, you can't really tear them again. I don't think you can. The Achilles is a bit more of a dodgier injury, but you expect him to come back fully fit and healthy, don't they? And also, he was playing for the Jets, for Christ's sake. That pitch is just disgusting when it comes to players and injuries. It is literally the death for a player in that stadium.
Be careful with that pitch. That's good. That's the World Cup final pitch you're talking about. Be careful. Don't go talking badly about the World Cup final football pitch.
Sorry. Is it foreshadowing that Lamine Yamal is going to get frigging injured in the final of the World Cup? No one cared. Wrong shaped ball. Don't care.
I did hear on another podcast the other day. Someone said it wouldn't surprise me if, with it being the Jets, that they've just had incredibly poor medical staff that have just not helped Vera Tucker in terms of his ability to condition and recover properly. It would be a very Jets thing to do, to cut corners and not get him the support he needs medically. Yeah, I mean, they'll probably be looking at this. If Vera Tucker comes in and plays every game and every snap for the next 3 seasons and is great, they're going to be they're going to be tilting massively because they didn't get much out of him because of injury, and he comes to their biggest rivals and looks like an all-pro. Like, yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, Grandizer says, I'm a moderator for Raw the Lions UK. I don't know if you lads ever heard of them. We have been looking for Patriots content creators out of the UK. I've heard of Raw the Lions. I've heard them for a number of years. So they're a very good group. Very, very good group. Hopefully we can get in touch with them for the upcoming season, because we have to play the NFC North this season. So, we will get in touch with the Lions podcast as we do. Let's take a look at departures. I just want everyone to give me one name of why was you gutted that we let this guy go? We didn't re-sign him. Rob, I'll start with you first.
Yeah, I mean, there's not any massive names that have gone. I was a little bit disappointed to see Kairis Tonga go from a sort of likability standpoint. I don't think it's going to be a huge loss on the field. I think that it felt a little bit worse because we all got excited when he lined up on offense. But still, he did obviously, contribute significantly. But I think we'll be able to replace that. I think looking at it at the moment, the name is probably Austin Hooper, as it's been mentioned about that second pass catching tight end. I thought Austin Hooper came in and did a really solid job for us. He was reliable. He caught a couple of great touchdown passes for us, and that's really the only one that we're yet to really replace. It feels like at the moment. I guess we'll see what happens with Jack Gibbons. That's probably the other name that would concern me. His fate is yet to be decided. But I think that generally the other guys that have gone, it feels like we've brought in, fairly adequate replacements. So I'll go with Austin Hooper for now.
I think for me, it's Chason. Go on, Nick, you go first.
Chason for me is quite an interesting subject, because we had agreed, he had already said that he was going to test the market and that he wanted to see what was out there. Fair enough. Not a problem with that. But he signs for Washington in a 1-year deal for $11 million. Are you telling me that we didn't match that? It's $11 million for a year. Whether we could have given him, 2 years for a little bit more, or 2 years for a little bit less. I just think for him to sign with the Commanders on a 1-year deal, the fact that now, if we chose not to match that because they don't rate him high enough, that's a very different conversation. But I get what you're saying. The thing for me is, I think Tonga's gone to the Chiefs and he's got a decent gig. 3 years, 21 million. I don't know what the structure is of that deal, but 7 million a year, I don't think I would have kept Tonga for that. So, I think for me, I'll probably say Chason.
Yeah,
Kieran?
I think it's Chason. I agree with Nick. Like, I'm surprised that offer wasn't matched, because I think that's not an insane amount of money considering the production he had in our system last year and his age. I think I would have liked to have seen him get an extension similar to what Draymond Jones got. Like, if you were telling me we could get Chase on for 13 million a year over 3 years, I'd have done that. because I wanted familiarity in the system. I wanted someone that you knew you could rely on, who's gonna get, rack up a few sacks and be an impact player. Obviously, former first round pick, still only 26. I think the thing that confuses me the most about it is like just a 1 year deal. Like I was saying earlier in the season when we were talking about, potentially re-signing Chase on, is like he's few years in Jacksonville where it was considered a bust and didn't really, do much. Goes to Carolina, doesn't really stick around there too long, practice squad, then goes to Vegas and has a bit of a renaissance and has a half decent year, which then leads to the 1 year contract with us. And you're kind of thinking he needs to find a home now. You need a bit of consistency. Get yourself in somewhere where you can get a 3 or 4 year contract, be an important player and establish yourself on a team. But he's now taken another 1 year contract with the Commanders. And I don't think that makes a lot of sense for him long term, because you fast forward to 2027 and he's going to hit free agency again. So I don't think that's done him any good. So I would have liked to have signed him longer term. If that's what he wanted, I would definitely have explored another 1 year with us, as well as Draymond Jones. And I don't think Jones is a bad signing. I would have liked to have had both of them, to be honest, because we said the way that Vrabel, deploys his fronts and stuff like that, I would have thought that they would complement each other quite well. But now we're looking for some juice off the edge. And we had someone in the building who could have been good, in the next few years. And I think it's a real shame that he's gone to another team, and it's not the kind of contract we expected him to get. If he had gone somewhere and got a contract similar along the lines of a Boye Mafe or what Bradley Chubb, robbed the Buffalo Bills of, like you'd say, okay, fair enough, 3 year deal, 40 odd million, well done to him. But the fact it's just a 1 year on your contract seems like a bit of a mercenary move. Like I don't really like it, and it's a real shame.
Well, the question is how much did we pay you? How much did we pay for Chase on last season? Was it
1 year, $3 million? I think, wasn't it? It was really cheap.
1 year, $3 million. So let's ask the question: is he worth 4 times? So the production that he put in, is that 4 times the amount he deserves?
But still, $12 million a year for an edge rusher who can get you between 8 and 10 sacks a year, I think is worth it. I would pay that. Because
I think we had him at a cut price last year. I think probably you look at it. I don't think it's a case of this year he's increased his intake by 4 times. I think really we was probably underpaid by half maybe last year, so we got him for 3. And I would think, if you said probably 5, 6 maybe, and then you're saying, well, now he's just got 12, then that's a bit more understandable. But even so, to double your money, if you said 6, to double your money to nearly 12 is quite an impressive, and that's what a good season does for you. So.
Yeah, I think when Nick referenced Tonga, like I would like Tonga to have stayed. We all liked Tonga. He played an important role on that line last year as the nose tackle and the run stuffer. That was a big contract he got from KC. I'm not sure $7 million a year for a nose tackle is really warranted. So I can understand why he would go elsewhere for that. And now we have a need to find a nose tackle. There is a guy in the draft, as I've said to you guys in the group chat, that I think would plug the gap very well. If there are people listening that aren't as clued up on the draft, I'll give you a name here. Have a look at defensive tackle Tim Keenan III out of Alabama, projected as about a 5th round pick at the moment. And he is just a behemoth Hulk-sized nose tackle who just eats gaps and space. And that is basically all he does, is just defend the run. In terms of a Tonga replacement to play exactly that same role, I genuinely think that would be worth picking on day 3 of the draft. And you're going to get someone that's going to be on a cheap contract, a rookie that you can have around for a few years. He's, it's not a great defensive tackle class overall, but if you're talking about a traditional big, burly nose tackle that can help plug the run, Tim Keenan III is who I like on day 3 of the draft.
Yeah, you have mentioned that in the group chat. Well, I need to see some videotape on him, although trying to get video footage on a defensive lineman or a nose tackle, there's only so much you can watch before it's like it's the same thing that he does over and over again. But we'll take a look. We'll take a look on it. Got a question in from again Ravens across the pond. Ethan, busy tonight. Big up to you, mate. What are your thoughts on Hawkins and what can we expect to get from him in Baltimore? I personally think he's better than those that have left the Ravens this free agency. I think he's a good partnership for Kyle Hamilton. I think he's going to do well with Kyle Hamilton on the other side of him. Had a really, really good. He had a really, really good season for us last year. What did I put in the message chat for you, Tom? Let me just look. Where was it?
I think he's an improving, like a late bloomer. I would say maybe is the better phrase for it, because he kind of played a very rotational role when he was in Atlanta, and he came here in 2024 on a bad defense and wasn't great in 2024. But he obviously was thrust into a starting role when we got rid of Duggar and Peppers, and he was great last year. He was really, him and Woodson really established himself as a really, capable safety duo. Obviously, he's 28, 29, so he's someone who's, as I said, a bit of a late bloomer, like you wouldn't have really known much about him the last few years, but I think he's someone that can get his hands on the ball. I think he had 4 picks last year. He can. So he's got some ball production. He can come down and play in the box. I don't think he's like a stud safety, but I think he's a solid, capable NFL starter that will do a job. And with Jesse Minter running a defense, you'd have confidence that he can definitely hold his own. I do think we've got a better player in Kevin Byard, but I would have not been against Hawkins staying at all because I think he had a great year.
So last year he had 71 total tackles, 45 solo, 26 assists, 4 interceptions, 1 forced bump ball, and 1.5 sacks. We're going to miss Hawkins. But as I've always said, we've replaced him with someone that is better in Kevin Byard. Even though he is older, but you're getting a all-pro caliber safety in replacement for Hawkins. That's an upgrade for us. Hawkins has done well for us, okay? And we wish him all the best. Is he going to get the same production from us? Same production from the Ravens he's going to get from us? Only time will tell. But he's got Jesse Minter now as the head coach, who's a defensive-minded head coach. He'll get that defense rocking and rolling again, I'm sure. But look, we're going to miss him either way. I don't know. I think the loss for me was Chase on to a certain degree. I also still think as well that Kairos Tonga should have. I still think Kairos Tonga should have kept hold of. We balls that up after the AFC Championship when they come back to the table when the price went high, and I don't know what the hell happened, and we're never going to find out as to what happened. But there are a number of...
Carl, stop hiding. Come on, you're upset veteran Lowe's gone. That's your biggest miss. Come on.
Why would I be upset with this? Why would I be upset of him going? Why would I be upset of him going?
We'll have to FedEx that colander to San Francisco.
We'll have to FedEx it. I'll speak to Paul Hope on the 49ers lot and see if they want us. They can have their freaking dustbin head back.
It's an interesting point though, because we have a need for backup tackles now, right? Because Munford hasn't been re-signed either, and he's someone that I would like to have kept around, because he done a job last year, and he would have been relatively cheap. So we now need a couple of offensive tackles. Now I'd imagine one of them is probably coming through the draft, but yeah, we definitely need to sign a veteran tackle at some point because we are looking painfully thin in that position at the moment.
Yeah, they are going to be painfully thin. Grandies has put, lads, any love for the legend of these defensive tackles, nickel nose tackles, Dominic Big Citrus Orange, Iowa State, and Dante the Godfather Corleone from Cincinnati. I got an offer for you. You can't refuse the Godfather movie.
Yeah, I like both of them. I think they're sort of 3rd, 4th round players. great names. Obviously, Big Orange or Big Citrus, sorry, for Dominic Orange. Great nickname. And of course, Dante Corleone, named the godfather after Don Corleone. I think they're draftable just based on that alone. But no, they're two decent mid-round defensive linemen. I think Corleone's coming off a bit of an injury. I think he probably would have gone a bit higher if it not been for that injury. But they're solid prospects in kind of those middle rounds, I think. Nick, I don't know where they are on your board, but
Corleone is 6 and Orange is 7 on my defensive tackle board.
There you go, middle of the road. That's pretty much where I'd expect them to be at.
That'd be a nice fit. Put in a Milton Williams of the Orange.
I would not be against either of those players coming in that kind of mid round if that's the way we went. I think that they're solid mid round prospects.
Yeah. As we're going through the rest of the lineup, so Alex Austin reportedly signed with the Dolphins. Garrett Bradbury got traded to the Chicago Bears, as we already know. Diggs got released. Austin Hooper reportedly signing back with the Atlanta Falcons. Linebacker Anthony Jennings, it's only got put on here, he was released, but he has signed with Cincinnati. I'm not quite sure about that. Obviously, Vidarian goes to the 49ers, and Jelani Tavai also got released as well. Has Jelani Tavai been picked up by anybody yet?
I don't think so.
I don't think he has. I don't think he has either. So that's going to be, let's do some grades. Let's do some grades of free agency. So, Kez, we'll start with you.
Overall free agency grade?
Overall free agency pre-draft.
Yeah, I'm just going to slap bang in the middle as a B. I think we've addressed some important areas, in particular, like, bringing in Gilliam and Hill to help the running game. We've got an edge rusher. We still have a need there. That's something we need to look at in the draft. You've replaced Diggs, but still need another receiver. You've got your guards sorted, but some more offensive line depth is needed. You've replaced Hawkins with Kevin Byard, which I think is an upgrade. We've also not mentioned the two special teams players we've signed as well, in Mike Brown and KJ Britt. I think they're kind of guys that, they're just going to be core special team players and rotational depth pieces. I don't think you're going to see them on the field getting many defensive snaps, but they have, a lot of special teams pedigree. So, that's one for Jeremy Springer, who also just signed the new contract. So they're obviously trying to keep him happy with his unit. So I think it's slap bang in the middle. There's still some work to do. We're still crying out for another receiver and another edge rusher. Offensive line depth is important, and a nose tackle. I know Nick wants another depth corner, which I think with Alex Austin being released is needed. But in terms of where we're going into in the draft, with, I don't know how many picks have we got? Is it 9?
11.
11.
So we've got 11 draft picks. You've still got the second wave of free agency to come as well around, once the draft is finished. I think we're in a good space. We're not done yet. But as things stand right now, I think we're okay, but still room for improvement.
So what's your grade?
B. Slap bang in the middle.
Solid B. Okay. Rob?
Do we do plus and minus grades?
Yeah.
So
I
want to do slightly more generous and say B plus. I think that there's only a couple of things that were potentially on the shopping list that's not come through, and really, I don't know how much of that was in our hands. Yes, you could have paid 30 million quid for Alec Pierce, but he's already the highest paid free agent wide receiver ever at 29, going back to Indy. I like the overall sort of philosophy of the free agent class that we've brought in. There's a lot of guys that we have familiarity with, if I can get that out, from playing in the division, in Gilliam, Hill, Vera Tucker. Same with Vrabel, having familiarity with guys like Mike Brown and Kevin Byard that he's brought in ex-Titans. Overall, it's quite a young crop of players as well that we've brought in, which I really like. There's a little bit of experience there in Kevin Byard, which as I mentioned earlier on, I think he's going to be really valuable on the back end of that defense. But for the most part, Vera Tucker, Dobbs, Hill, Brown, and Britt are all 26 years old and younger. And I think as a young team, with a lot of guys on rookie deals already, this is a team that we want to grow around Drake, for the next 4 or 5 years. On the contracts that are already on, I think it's really valuable to bring those guys in at that age and try and establish that consistency that's been mentioned already, whether it's on the offensive line with, potentially Campbell, Wilson, Vera Tucker, and on when you being there for the next 3-4 years, or in the receiving group with Booty and Dobbs being there for the next few years as well. So yeah, I really like the moves that we've made. There's no contracts that stick out there to me as absolute stinkers. There's only a little bit of risk involved really with Vera Tucker. Outside of that, I don't see any other contracts that have a lot of potential to go wrong. I think you could be pretty happy that Dobbs is going to come in and produce at least at the level that he's been at in Green Bay, if not a little bit higher. Like I say, another ascending player at 25 years old, and Kevin Byard, I think, comes in and although Jalen Hawkins was solid for us last year and performed, I would say, a little bit above his station. I think Byard comes in and provide something a little bit different on the back end that is just above that in terms of level. And then the last couple of signings that we've made in Brown and Britt, nothing particularly exciting. I like Britt in terms of the losing Tavai. He's another big linebacker at 240 pounds, so he comes in and just fills that little gap if there is one left by Tavai. But we'd lost a couple of really core special teamers there, and Chasen, Jennings, Tavai, and Alex Austin all played significant snaps on special teams. So I think you just had a couple of bodies in there that can come in and make sure that unit is equally solid. So, I mean, the Dobbs signing is growing on me more and more with each day. I get a little bit more excited about that. I think he's got some potential. So yeah, I think we've addressed some good needs there. So I'll give him a B+.
So just to add on to what you said about the Romeo Dobbs, he had a good season. Obviously, Diggs had the season. I just want to put you into a comparison, okay? So Stephon Diggs is 32. He had 576 passing snaps, 120 targets, 99 receptions, 1,123 yards, 5 touchdowns, 55 first downs, 3 drops, and an 8.4 ADOT. Not quite sure what that reference is, but someone can help me out there.
Target.
Thank you very much. Dobbs, it's only 25. 484 pass snaps, 94 targets, 63 receptions, 848 yards, 7 touchdowns, 48 first downs, 4 drops, 12.9 ADOT.
Yeah,
it does sound like very, very similar numbers to Stephon Diggs, but no one was talking about Romeo Dobbs last year. People talking about Diggs because obviously he had 1,000 yards receiving. No one was talking about Romeo Dobbs, but they both have got the same sort of statistics and metrics either side. So they are very broad. They are broadly similar in a way.
Yeah.
Go on. I was just going to forward it to Nick if you want to add anything more onto that.
Just on the Dobbs Diggs sort of comparison, I was going to say I would have expected Diggs' production to go down a little bit this upcoming season if he stuck around going into his age 33 year. Always an injury concern as well. Dobbs has obviously been in a crowded receiver room in Green Bay. I think, as we've mentioned, he's going to have a little bit more focus in New England, so I'd expect that to potentially go up. So I like the move.
Nick, what about you?
Yeah, I think both guys are right. We're probably in that sort of A-, B+, somewhere around that window. I think the fact that most of the signing, as I said earlier, most of the signings have been tweaks that have improved the team in one way or another. And when you look at the amount of money that was thrown about in free agency, because if I just use guard as an example, now we talked about Vera Tucker and his injury level, his injuries, but we've signed him at 14 million a year. Now, Solomalo only signed for 10 million a year, yet Edwards, who I quite like coming out of Buffalo, chose to go to the Saints. I can't see the Saints being a challenger. So he's not going to win anything there, but he's gone for like 16, nearly 17 million a year. So you look at the signings that we've made, we haven't really overpaid for anybody either. And it's not like we've done the Bill Belichick thing either and wait for the first week to finish, let all the big names and the big money go, and then go scrounging around in bargain basement for cheap deals. We've been active in that first week. We've got players that we've needed that have improved us. We haven't paid through the nose for them. And we haven't kept players that who have wanted to be paid through the nose either. So I think probably we're all three of us are in and around the same marker before obviously you having given your point. But yeah, I have no issue in what Vrabel's doing. I'm sure he has a plan and whatever else. And I look at what we did last year, and I'm happy at where we're moving forward.
Yeah, who's your Patriot fan says if the Saints do anything, they're going to spend money. Grandisa 12 has put question. You lads had your NFL free agency wish list that you hope the Patriots would sign. Did any of your players get signed by New England? Are any of those players still available?
No and no.
No, probably not. I think all the big,
quite simple.
All the big names I think we wanted all went within like the first hour. I was like, oh shit, it's gonna be one.
That said, I would have loved David Edwards from Buffalo as a guard, but I'm not paying 16.5 million a year for a guard. I've said this for the last couple of weeks. We're paying Big Mike 17 million a year. We need to stop paying. I wouldn't pay that either. We need to restructure him. So, I think no. There are players that I would have loved that we didn't get, but I'm glad we didn't get them because I didn't want us to pay through the nose for them. So, yeah, no into that.
Yeah, I wanted Isaiah. I wanted one of Isaiah Likely or Cade Otton at tight end because to get the replacement ready for when Hunter Henry, because he's getting old. He's getting on a little bit now. Still a predominant pass catcher, but we need someone younger and fresher and probably a little bit more beef to help with the tackling and so on.
I think the obvious one was Alec Pierce, right? I think everyone wanted Alec Pierce. Like you said, Carl, one of those tight ends, whether it was Otton, whether it was Likely, whether it was Okonkwo, one of them guys. Ideally, we wanted. We wanted a pass rusher. Draymond Jones wasn't someone that we perhaps had on our wish list, but fits the bill. As I said, I was in on Isaac Soimalo, but we still got a great guard in Elijah Vera Tucker, so it doesn't really matter. I really wanted Nick Cross from the Colts. He ended up going to Washington, but we got Kevin Byard. So, we all had players that we wanted to sign, but we ended up getting other players in the same position who are just as good as well. So it's not like it's a disappointment that we've missed out on people. We've still gone and got players to address those areas and still good players in those areas. So as much as you can build a wish list, I think the fact that we filled the positions is the most important thing.
There's still got a lot more work to do, and that's when now the draft will start coming into its own. Starting from next Tuesday, we will be starting to preview every position of what is needed for the Pats. Obviously, edge, tight end, receiver, linebacker. Those are going to be probably our four most important targets. Tackle as well, and then we'll work our way down because from this coming Tuesday, we are officially in NFL draft build-up time. So we'll be going through it, all the players, all the positioning, what strengths they got, what weaknesses they've got, and what deficiencies could drop them in the draft. I will say this, so just to close, just a little end the show out, guys. Okay. Obviously, me and Kieran had a bit of a confrontation, shall I say, regarding Diego Pavia. Well, I've thrown that out to Tom, who is the owner of Ravens Across the Pond. I said to him, I think, I said to him, I said, we had a little joke about it. I basically said, I bet you 20 quid he goes undrafted. He then raises me by saying, I bet you 50 quid he gets drafted. Done. We have a bet on the draft night. If Diego Pavia gets drafted, I lose 50 quid. If he doesn't, I win 50
Have you
quid.
got 50 quid?
Yes, I have
you
actually. I have got 50 quid actually.
I'm not
I have
paying
got
your
50.
bets for you. I'm not
Bro.
bailing you out of your bet.
Bro, I have seen a lot of discourse about this quarterback, and trust me, when we get into the quarterbacks in the next coming week, in the next couple of weeks, I will speak on why. But I'm going to hide that for the time being because it's all in my book here. So I will keep that in hiding for the time
I
being.
think you might be 50 quid worse off come April, because I think he's gonna. I don't think he's gonna get drafted high, but I think.
Never said anything about going to get drafted high. I said he's going to go undrafted. If he's going to go drafted, it will be very late in day 3. It will be around the highest he will go. The highest he goes is round 6.
I think that's fair. I think the fact he was able to elevate
he's also 5'9", so he's nearly as short as you.
He's actually the same height as me. I think the fact that he was able to elevate Vanderbilt, and I think the character people are really going to love, the kind of alpha dog, like chip on the shoulder, like seems to be like a real, like, culture guy. I feel like some team is going to look at him in round 6 or 7 and be like, do you know what? He just fits what we want in a third string QB or a practice squad QB.
And guess who that will be? We're the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, but I still think he gets drafted. But he is very small for the position that and he's a bit older. But yeah, there we go.
There we go. Thank you, last for this stream. Jolly good to find you. We'll pass on your social to all the Lions UK. They should be in contact with you. Stay happy, healthy, safe, and blessed. Cheerio. Thank you for taking my questions. Everyone in the chat who answered them as well. Much appreciated. Big up to you, mate. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for being here.
Always welcome, mate. Always welcome. That's it for the end of our show. We're going to get on out of here. Obviously, starting from next Tuesday, it will be all about the draft. So, yeah, it's going to be fun times going ahead. Make sure you smash the like button on the way out. Gronk Spike, subscribe button. Tell all your friends. Follow us on social media platforms. Make sure you follow the podcast on Spotify and on Apple as well. And remember, there is an event happening at the Hippodrome in Leicester Square in London on the 23rd of April, all to do with the NFL draft. It's going to be a big deal. So yeah, keep an eye out on socials from Across the Pond Network. They'll be doing their bits. And obviously we will be there as well in live and in living color. So yeah, should be good fun. But we're getting on out of there. Thank you to Nick. Thank you to Rob. Thank you to Kez. Good night. God bless. Go Patriots.
Right.